Grab your pre-workout and turn up that volume. It is time for a new episode of the Powerlifter's Den with your host, Cam Smith. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Powerlifter's Den. I'm your host, Cam Smith, and today I wanted to bring on Fernando. He'll be competing in the upcoming Reach Rumble. So, Fernando, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, how's it going? Fernando Arias. I've been powerlifting for a little over 3 years. About a week out the Rumble right now.
So, something when I first hopped on Open Powerlifting, kind of just get a little bit of a background. I noticed that obviously sometimes they don't necessarily get all the meets, and sometimes it's like, oh, they've been training for years or they've been competing for years, but you've actually been competing for a few years and you're already putting up this monster total. So I think the first thing I want to discuss is maybe a little bit about your background and kind of what got you onto the platform.
So I've been lifting for probably like 12 years now. I started off like a bodybuilder, wannabe bodybuilder, just getting in the gym. I ran track before. I wanted to get a little bigger because I was about the same height I am now, but I was like a $160. I was real skinny, so I kind of wanted to put some size on. And then I want to say maybe 2020, I saw a video of Ronnie Coleman saying deadlifts build a bigger back. So I went to Retro Fitness. I loaded up the bar so I could, and I pulled like 600 for the first time. And a trainer walked up to me and said, "Do you powerlift?" And I knew of the sport a little bit, but not too much. So he put me in contact with someone who does powerlift at the Retro, and I started training a little bit with him. And then I kind of fell off of it. It was like 2020. I fell off of it. COVID happened. So then I didn't train for a little bit, got back into like wanting to bodybuild. And then I joined the powerlifting gym out here in Hellertown, close to where I'm at now. And the owner was like, "You're too strong not to compete." So she was like, "There's a meet 8 weeks from now here in Allentown." And I signed up and I did it. And I didn't think I was going to like it because I never liked being in front of a class presenting. I don't like being all eyes on me. So I figured everybody watching me lift, I'm not gonna like it. But I did my first meet, I was hooked. I had no coach, nobody handled me. I didn't even know you had to put attempts in. Like I did my opener, I walked away and I was like, how are they gonna know my next attempt? And the guy next to me was like, "Oh, you have a minute to tell them." So then like I was learning as I was going, and then ever since then I loved it. I went like 7 for 9, I want to say, and yeah, I was just hooked ever since. And then I competed, got myself a coach, and then ever since then I just fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, so I mean, not many people can kind of just walk up to a bar and pull 600. So it's definitely it kind of reminds me of just like some of the other people in the sport that if someone never kind of pushed them or kind of asked them like what they were doing, that they would just never step on the platform, and you never get to see some of these incredible lifters out there.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine all like the hidden monsters that just don't know anything about the sport. They just kind of lift weights in their basement or in their local gym and just don't know nothing about anything.
Yeah. So we'll kind of dive into a little bit about your training as well. Kind of since when you started, I don't know if you have a coach or kind of just where some of your, I guess, methods of training come from.
Currently I don't have a coach. I get like friends to help me out, like Shane Holler, or like the owner of Abs. He helps me out a little bit. I was working with the Greenup for a little bit, but I kind of wanted to try my own thing, see if I could do my own programming. I kind of do a little bit of everything, a little bit of linear. I work with chains and bands, so maybe a little bit of conjugate with like maximum effort days and stuff like that. I kind of just do a little bit of everything, kind of. No, there's no like set training method I use that I'm like, this is all I do. I kind of go based off of feel. I do RP sometimes, but it's still based off percentages. So it's like a little bit of everything, kind of gauging where my body's at and seeing where I'm progressing, what needs to be changed or what not.
So I guess one of my questions too is with kind of starting with such a strong base, when you kind of incorporated like a linear periodization, did you still kind of see the newbie gains that someone would, or was it kind of a little bit different since you had such a good start?
When I first started, like I said, I had no coach, so I burned myself out quick. After my first meet, I actually started working with the owner of the gym where I competed, Eric Kratz. I don't know if you're familiar with me, he owns Competitive Edge. But yeah, I started working with him. He does linear, but it's very slow. Like it's very conservative. So like you're adding like 5 pounds to the what you're doing for a prep, let's say, over whatever. So like my second meet, like I went 9 for 9, but I had way more in the tank. So then after that, I started working with another coach out here near me, and that's where I kind of really exploded with progress. Where he had me doing a lot of AMRAPs, and he was more pushing my body. So then my third, I want to say my third meet was the American Pro, and like I went from my pull from the second meet was 782. I pulled 904 from that to the American Pro, and then I squatted 770. I benched. I want to say it was 485, and then from there we kept building. It was kind of same weight in the linear, building like it was like AMRAPs, a long, really long prep, 16 weeks, and then from there just kept building and building. And then after him, last year, I started working with Greeno, and Greeno's methods are a lot different than any coach I've worked with before. So like I still gained, I still had a lot of stuff I was progressing on, but yeah, just the newbie gains that just really kicked in right when I started working with Dom, but right before Greeno.
Yeah. So for me, my last prep, like, so this prep was multiply, so it was learning the equipment. It was just a whole different game. But the last prep was when I first started training with the coach, and a lot of the things I did we would do AMRAPs, especially on squats towards the end, squats and bench mostly, less a couple deadlifts here and there, but towards the end of prep, like the numbers were kind of like dropping, and I was like, am I getting weaker? And then as soon as we deloaded and you get to the platform, you're like, oh shit, now I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was like my biggest issue, especially coaching myself, was knowing when to pull back, because you kind of just see yourself making the progress, and you sometimes you might peak too soon. But like I've been learning over time, like hitting those numbers sub max, like kind of like RP like 8 maybe, and then leaving it for the platform was like the best way to go.
Yeah, and for me, the first few years too, I was kind of writing my own program. Like I kind of, I mean, I do some coaching here or there, but like I'm not like I don't consider myself necessarily a coach. I'm more of an athlete. But it's more I was doing the right things, and I was programming the right things and attacking the weaknesses. But when it came to like how to peak, that was something that I wasn't familiar with, and kind of that's something that I've recently got good enough at to be able to express that to my athletes. And I looking back at it, like a couple of the meets I did, like I would hit massive PRs and everything 3 weeks after the meet, and then I was like, well, if that's the case, then my timing was so off.
Yeah, that's like the biggest thing. It's hard to find like the right timing and what numbers to hit when and how far out in order to be like your strongest for that, those 9 minutes on meet day.
Yeah. So I know you're prepping for the Rumble, and you've been kind of involved with Abs and have competed in some of their events. So what got you connected with Jay and kind of Reach, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it was 2 years ago, right after the pro. I got invited to do Ghost Clash 2, I want to say. I think it was 2. And I accepted, I signed up, but I saw a video or a story with Garrett Fear. Someone asked him, what's one meet you wish you've done before his injuries, and he pulled out, and it was an Abs meet. It was Abs Pro. So I reached out to Jay via his website. It was like interest. So I signed up for like, I'm interested in doing an Abs meet, if I could get in or not. Jay reached out to me via email. Was like, I'd love to have you at an Abs Pro meet, but I'm actually doing an Abs Clash, which is totals only. Would you be interested in doing that? And I love big dogs like Dan Bell, Eric Lillybridge, Andre, all those guys. It doesn't matter what your age is, the biggest total win. So I was like, absolutely. So then I signed up for Abs, the Clash, pulled out of the Ghost Clash. Was like, I'd rather go to Dublin than Miami. So then I did the Clash, and I won it. And then ever since then, I've been hooked with doing his meets, because it's just like the way he makes you feel doing to me, like the press conference, the weigh-ins, the kits he gives you. Like, he hypes up every single lifter, so it's not your typical meet where you sign up, you do your weigh-ins, and you fuck off until the next day, and you kind of do your meet, then it's over with. He builds you up, makes you feel special, has this press conference, has this weigh-in, he gives you this get up the kit. He actually cares about each and every lifter, no matter what your following is, how long you've been doing it, who you are, if you're popular or not, what your clout. He just wants to make every lifter feel like they're wanted there. So after that one meet, I'm like, I can't do any other meet. Like, I did the pro, and the pro's very good production wise, but like I told, I just feel like Jay makes you feel like an actual pro, especially with the spectators there. Like, they make you, like, you have people roaring for you. They don't even know who you are, and they're like screaming and clapping and making you feel special. So ever since that first abs meet, I got close with Jay because I told him, like, what you did here made me feel very special. And then I went to Poland to do the XPC Pro, and he happened to be there. He went there, so we got even closer there. And then he wrapped me for the animal cage. So, like, we've been seeing each other like every 3 months, I want to say. Like, he says that he's like, I see you more than my girlfriend. You know what I mean? It's funny.
Yeah,
So
I think
we built a really close relationship from the first clash ever since, to this Abs Pro meet.
yeah, Jay's great, and I'm really excited to kind of see how this develops more over the next few years because, like you said, big dogs and like the current, like those are really cool meets, and the idea of just seeing like the big dogs just put on the massive totals is kind of what not only is more fun to watch. No offense to the lighter weights, but it's definitely more fun to watch 2,300 pound totals instead of 1,200 pound totals. But
Absolutely.
also just the fact that from an outside perspective, like unless you know the person and they're putting up a really good like coefficient or something, then it doesn't really affect you. But if you're just like a person that's interested in fitness, or even someone who's not, like someone that used to watch maybe the US strongman on TV and things like that, like it kind of gives that personality and it gives like that excitement factor to powerlifting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it fair because, like you said, you have, like, most meets are dots.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like bigger guys, like, I kind of fall in the middle where, like, my dots are good and then I have a good total. But then you have guys with, like, just massive totals, like, Justin Zotto or Pat McGuire or Craig Foster, where, like, or, they're heavier. They have big totals, but like they do a local meet, and like their dots won't beat like a John Hack or what's his name, any of these guys that have respectable totals still, but their dots are so high because they're lighter. So I kind of like the idea of having these total only meets where, like, you get these guys that are heavier, bigger, to get the chance to win meets or get up there on podiums. Are they my camera freeze?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay.
But with these abs meet, I know obviously the standards are high, but outside of like the judging standards, the actual meet equipment is kind of not necessarily strict, but definitely the toughest version of equipment with the combo rack and the power bar and knee sleeves and things like that. Is that something that you've always competed with, or is that something that you had to adjust to?
After Clash, it was definitely something I had to adjust to. My first ever stiff bar walked out meet was the Pro, which was not the last week and the weekend before. So it was definitely something to adjust to. I mean, it's having to unload that squat on your back, take those steps. You have to lock your knees, wait for the squat command. It was a lot tougher than just picking it from a mono and just, going down and up. And then with the deadlift, the stiff bar, I mean, you get used to it if you adapt, but it is definitely harder. There's no whip. There's no slack. Like, the bar is just there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and for the deadlift bar specifically, I'm a believer that the more whip kind of benefits a sumo puller more than a conventional puller, and I think a conventional puller can actually benefit more from the stiff bar. And as so you could pull conventional, correct?
Yeah.
So maybe I just comparatively speaking, do you know like your relative differences between the two bars?
I'm not a big fan on conventional on a kabuki bar. Like, I could pull 881 on a kabuki, a sumo, and it's relatively easier. but I don't like it conventional. The whip could really get you if you're not patient with it.
Yep.
The stiff bar is more forgiving, I guess, for a conventional. Like it's a little better, but it still has its disadvantages. I do think it's just all what you train for. Like if you have enough time, like I had 4 months to prep for the pro. 4 months is more, like 16 weeks is more than enough time to adapt and get used to a certain bar. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like my stiff bar pull on in a meet is not that far off from my best deadlift bar. You know what I mean? Like in a meet.
Yeah.
They're
And,
not. I think with anything in training, any sport, it's like whatever you could adapt to. If you're like a real, like I guess an athlete, like if I give anybody 4 or 5 months, like to get used to a bar, you're gonna get used to it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think that's a great point with all athletes in general. Is like the elite athletes are the ones that can adapt to pretty much any situation and still perform well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, someone like Dave Richardson, he pulls 952 on the deadlift bar, but he pulls 959 on a stiff bar. You know what I mean? Like he just adapts well. Or like who else? Like Frank Allen, like he's a freak of nature. Like he could squat 930 something on a power bar. If you give him that extra room on a squat bar, I think he could maybe squat a little more, but it's just all him adapting. Like he's like you said, elite athletes just kind of take that challenge and just adapt.
Yeah. So for the actual Rumble, obviously it's coming up pretty soon. You're kind of in your taper mode, but relatively speaking, how has this prep gone for you? And maybe kind of what's the strategy going into the meet?
Um, it's been hard. I mean, I just competed the pro last weekend, so like I only had 2 weeks and to kind of maintain the strength I've had. So I kind of just had to write out my peak. The strategy was just kind of like not overdo it and blow my load. Kind of ride that peak sub like 8.5 RP, I guess. Numbers to kind of ride that peak into next weekend. So kind of right now, I'd finished my last like SPD day, whereas it was a little challenging, but not something where I'm blowing my load on. And then I'm just gonna taper really hard into next weekend.
Yeah, and as far as weight goes, obviously with the total meet, is that something where you kind of monitor your weight pretty closely, or you kind of just try to eat into the meets as much as you can?
I've been trying to put on the weight back on. I was 280 for the pro. I'm trying to walk on like 290-ish, a little over 290 for the Rumble, just to kind of have that extra weight. I do feel like it helps out with my squat and my bench.
Yeah. For the Rumble itself too, besides the obviously you want to do well and compete and win, but other than that, what are some of the things you're excited to see for this first event?
Just like the athletes, just going to Utah. I've never been there, and competing against these guys. I'm like, just a lot of strong guys. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. The first ever Rumble is just, my first ever stiff bar, walked out, sleeve meet. Some of these guys are like the best in the world. You know what I mean? The original roster was great, but this roster's still pretty good. Like these guys are all totaling over 2K or close to it, or like Frank Allen, Dave. Like it's just exciting to kind of being able to be a part of meets like this where it's just the strong guys, totals, and the power bar, sleeve, walked out, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of good to maybe talk about the camaraderie in powerlifting. Like, obviously, like you're friends with a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys have been on my podcast, and the I guess social media does have its benefits in some ways for that. You get to make a lot of friends in the sport. It kind of comes down to making friends. Obviously, it's about putting up the biggest totals, but at the end of the day, like making friends and kind of having those lifelong memories with others is huge.
Yeah, I mean, like me and Dave have like a nice little rivalry going, but we still behind the scenes we're DMing each other like, "How you doing? Like you're looking strong. How's everything feeling?" Like we want to beat each other, at our absolute best. But it is nice seeing guys you don't really get to see, besides once or twice a year because we all live in all parts of the country. So I mean, it is nice we're all rooting for each other. Like on meet day, we want to win, beat each other, but we're still rooting to beat the best version of whoever we're going up against, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I love about this sport. It's like I've said probably 100 times. It's one of the only sports where you actually are cheering on the guy to beat you.
Yeah, and that's what made me want to even do this sport more, was seeing like, you know, hitting your lift, and like when you put it down, you're seeing someone that's going up against you cheer for you, like watching you, like, oh shit, like I want to see him put this lift up, or I want to see him pull this, or whatever it is, you know? Because it is nice that we're trying to beat each other, but there's no like, oh, I hope he gets hurt, or I hope he doesn't get this lift. It's always like, damn, like this is crazy. Like doing the pro, like seeing Dave pull, 959 on a stiff bar, I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I guess outside of that, maybe just along your powerlifting journey, obviously you've made tons of friends, tons of connections, but maybe who are some of the influences that have either helped you get stronger or just kind of helped you out in other ways?
Um, Dan Bell, Shane Haller are two big ones. Like I met Shane for the first time last February, right before my first clash, and like he's always been a big supporter of like seeing me get stronger, me get better. Dan Bell, he's huge. I mean, I was living up in Florida, down in Florida, for a couple months, and I trained with him a few times, and hearing him say like, oh, like you're like the future of the sport, like you're the next generation, like I want to see you get stronger, I want to see you get better. You know what I mean? These are guys that reach out and see me and like want the best for me, like getting better. There's a few other guys, we have a little group chat. It's called Strong Boys. It's me, Shane, Justin's another one. Like I've competed against Justin twice now, and it's really good having guys that are like want to push you so you be better. Like Pat McGuire, Craig Foster, all those guys. They kind of just we all have like a nice camaraderie, like where we want to beat each other, but we want all of us to kind of progress and get better and crush whatever goals we have.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing, the takeaway of this is with all these like world class and like elite level powerlifters, none of them, all these guys you named, I've talked to most of them. I got to meet most of them, and none of them have egos. They're all friendly and they're all here to support you and help you. And basically, if you need help, they're there to help you.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, like like all these guys, they just are there to help you out. Even on meet day, I mean, a lot of other lifters like that come overseas and do Ghost Clash, like they could speak highly on guys like Dan or Shane or Craig if they're there, because these guys are competing themselves, but they're also helping you out. Like you need someone to handle you, they'll look out, try to find someone for you. You need someone to wrap you. They're making sure like, oh, warm up with us. Like they're not like, well, maybe a lot of people might think like you show up to these meets and like they're all piranhas. Like go warm up over there. We don't want you near us. Like they're still there to do their own thing, but they also like look out for you too. It's really nice. It's refreshing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you wouldn't expect from an outside lens. You see these big freaky dudes and think they're just going to be angry, but they're just, the bigger they are, the more teddy bear they are.
Yeah, it is. You see, they're like intimidating to look at. Like, I mean, Dan is like 6'2", 6'3", almost 400 pounds, and he looks like he'd kill you with his hands, but he's like the nicest guy. He'll shoot the shit with you and talk to you. Like, he's really nice. Like, we did Clash this year, like, we were drinking Guinness through our attempts. Like, we were drinking, having a good time. Like, this competing didn't feel like as intense. It was like really nice to kind of share the platform with these guys and kind of have a good time, and they're all there to help you out.
Yeah, so for you, what are some of the, I guess, important things outside of obviously getting stronger and competing? What are some of the important things for you in the world of powerlifting? Like when you go to a meet or maybe someone messaged you online, like what are some of those?
I mean, I compete just to kind of have a good time. Like I have my goals and my plans to get better in this sport. Like my biggest things are always like, I want to be one of the best, be remembered, create a legacy like Dan has, or like John. I mean, he's still competing, but he created his own legacy, and all these other guys. But at the end of the day, I enjoy competing. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy seeing and meeting these people, like meeting new people and competing against some of these guys. But at the end of the day, it's all enjoyment. The day I don't enjoy competing anymore, I don't want to do it anymore, I just won't do it because I have my career and my life and my other stuff outside of powerlifting that I enjoy to do. But powerlifting is like, I don't want to call it a hobby, but it is, like I
Yeah.
enjoy doing, I enjoy traveling. I've been blessed enough to be a part of all these things like the cage, going to Germany, doing the Eisenhower, going to Dublin and doing abs, or going to Poland. But at the end of the day, it's because I enjoy to do it. Like a lot of people beg me to stop competing so much because I've done 11 meets in 3 years. It's unheard of. And they're always like, why do you do so many? And I'm always like, because I just enjoy doing it. Like, it's just something I love doing it. The day you see me not do as many meets or not come to these things anymore is the day I fall out of love with it. And I'm just like, it's all like, I'm just not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
It's out of pure love.
Yeah, and you mentioned like hobby, and I think I like to use it as a hobby just because there's some people in the sport that think it's like their whole life should be centered around it, and I think it's not necessarily that that's the wrong thought, but it is a hobby, but it's also a passion. So I think
Absolutely, yeah.
so the big thing is like not necessarily it has to be your all, but when you kind of lose that love for it, you don't need to kind of force yourself to stay in it and be so deeply committed
Exactly,
to
yeah.
it.
I think once a lot of people realize it's not that deep,
Exactly.
like you know what I mean, like you said, I don't like to each their own. I don't judge nobody, but I feel like when you see people make powerlifting the center of their life, like it's the only thing they do, and social media is such a big influence, and that's all they do. It takes away from the love of actually training and actually competing. Like I've been lifting since, I've been in sports my whole life. I've been into lifting for the last 12 years. I'm 20. I've been lifting since I was like 16, and I'm very competitive. But at the end of the day, like it's a genuine love. Like I don't make powerlifting or the drama or the politics of in my life. Like I just like if you see, I've done different feds. I don't like attach myself to a fed or a certain clique or group. I just enjoy competing, enjoy seeing some of these people that I see once or twice a year, and just because I only live for 9 minutes. I'm there for a day or two for 9 minutes, and then I'm back to like my regular life that I love. Like I work, I spend time with my girlfriend, I spend time with my dog. Like I have other things in life that I look forward to. Like powerlifting is just like a part of it. It's not the main thing. It's just a part.
Yeah, and you should be able to kind of separate the two. I think when you're in the gym and you're training, it's definitely time to be focused and kind of
Yeah.
work towards that 9 minutes. I guess like you said, 9 minutes on the platform in total. That's even if you use it. But
Yeah.
it's so different than other sports where like a football game, you practice for the week and you play a game. If you lose a game, you can play the next week. This is something that you train for 16 up to 16 weeks for. If you have a bad day, like it's gonna affect you, but you can't let it
Yeah.
affect your outside life too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like clocking in. I look at it as like, like go to the
Exactly.
gym, I clocked in, I'm in there. And then once I leave, I'm clocked out. And then I don't let it, like the same thing with my work. Like I don't let my work affect my lifting or my actual life. Like, so I don't let powerlifting do the same thing. Like I kind of know how to put things in compartments, I can separate everything and not let it consume me. Cause I feel like a lot of the times that's why people get fed up with powerlifting because they get so consumed by it, especially with the politics and the shit they see online. And I'm just like, you see, I lock my phone and it's over. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that. And like you said, if you're too involved, you're going to get the burnout. And being able to not let one thing affect you into the next day. Like if you can walk into the gym and not let your work stress affect your training and vice versa, things are going to
Yeah,
be a lot better for you.
absolutely. Yeah. Like it's just genuine enjoying the training. You know what I mean? Like if that's the thing, a lot of people need to go back on just loving the gym itself. Because I forgot who posted it or where I saw it from, but they were saying like if social media just stopped existing, they think 90% of people would stop lifting. Like stop existing, people would stop lifting, and I'm like, that's true. If it did for me, I still lift just because like it's like a nice thing to do outside. Like release some stress or rage or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think so. Powerlifting, obviously, it's good to be able to separate, like we were saying, but I definitely think there's a lot of takeaways and like kind of some life lessons you can learn through powerlifting. So, from your experience, what are some of the things that you've learned?
Commitment, the dedication, the what's the word I'm trying to use? The discipline you need, kind of like to go to the gym on days you don't want to go. Like damn, like I don't want to go today. I don't really feel good, but I have to. I'm in prep. Like I have to go. You know what I mean? Like, or the eating part of it, like, because getting to, I'm like, right now, I'm like 286 ish, but getting to this weight took dedication to eating, because some days I don't want to eat. I'm like, damn, this is annoying, but like, you have your goal. So it's like, I feel like powerlifting or lifting in general creates that discipline that if you set a goal in your mind, you're just addicted to it. You're just like, I need to do whatever it takes to get to this goal, whether it's eating, lifting, sleeping, because sleeping is a huge part, drinking enough water, little things like that you don't notice, but it clicks in your head.
Yeah, definitely. Like completing all the pieces of the puzzle. Like you can train your ass off, but if you're not eating, which first
Yeah.
of all, I think eating is the hardest part of powerlifting.
Yeah,
If you're not eating, sleeping, doing the right things outside of that, that training is going to get you nowhere but a hospital bed.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like bodybuilding. Like they say, it's like 70% diet, 30% training. If you're not eating or sleeping right, you're training, you're not going to progress in anything, because you need to recover. Your body needs to build, for the next time you go,
Yeah, and as far as nutrition goes, obviously you're trying to put on weight, so we can talk a little bit about maybe how many calories you're eating a day, just kind of what if you're eating on a schedule, like what's it kind of like at this point for you trying to get to that
Um,
290?
um, I have a nutrition coach. His name is Frankie. I mean, this one's Frankie Pro, but I have a sort of a schedule. I just try to get it in because I work 2 to 10, so it's a little hard like to time it exactly. But I try to eat maybe like, I think right now we're at 45 or 5,000 calories. It's a lot of cream of rice, steak, chicken. Now that we're trying to add some weight, every once in a while I'll throw a cheat meal like Five Guys, some pizza, some sushi. But most of the time, like I'll try to eat within my plan. Well, he wants me to eat within the plan, and then I add the cheat meals. So it's just really basic. It's your rice, your chicken. I don't eat a lot of chicken, but chicken thighs, mostly steak, a lot of red meat. I'll have cream of rice. I love cream of rice. Your protein. I'll have pancakes, eggs, toast, stuff like that. It's very basic.
Yeah, for me, the toughest part about the eating is I usually don't wake up with an appetite. So eating breakfast is something that I'm trying to get better at. But in terms of, I guess, nutrition overall, like obviously you want to try to eat clean as much as you can. But sometimes if you're trying to put on the weight, just sometimes you got to pull over into that Wendy's and get a couple
My
burgers.
go-to is McDonald's. I love McDonald's. Everywhere I go, I eat McDonald's. It's like every country I've been to, I've always tried McDonald's just to see if it's good.
Okay, so I guess when you go to the McDonald's, if it's in a different country, do you try maybe some of the things that like U.S. doesn't have?
Yeah, for sure. Most of the time it's similar, but they have little things that we don't have. Um, like Canada has poutine fries. Like that was pretty good. You know what I mean? Like we don't have that. Other countries have snack wraps still, so I usually get
Oh,
those. But I keep them. I try to compare it to what I get here, like the nuggets,
yep.
a Big Mac or a quarter pounder, stuff like that. But I've noticed overseas their meat's better. Like Ireland, their meat's way better. Germany and Poland, their burgers taste like actual meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think if anyone from McDonald's is hearing this, please bring back the snack wraps. Those are the
Yeah,
greatest things
please.
ever.
Yeah, surprised they took them out.
Yeah. So yeah, we're about what 2 weeks away, getting close to 2 weeks away from the Rumble.
Oh, it's next weekend. It's a week and 2 days,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
shit. All right. So yeah, because I'm competing that same day in a different meet, but I'll definitely be checking in and trying to watch that. But for you, what does your kind of taper look like? Maybe what are some of the recovery tools you might incorporate during that like deload week? And
It'd be probably like two SBD days, very, very, very low, like 45, 50%. Just kind of like keep my body moving. Um, I do a lot of like try to like I got my shoulders and I got bad tendonitis, so I try to do like some stuff to get inflammation down. Take it easy on the weight and kind of do stuff that kind of doesn't agitate my shoulders and my elbows, and just try to keep a little bit of movement. I walk a lot at work, so I don't have to worry about like really walking, but stuff like that. Don't really push it. Very, very light, like going to the gym and leaving without barely breaking a sweat, kind of just getting movement in.
far as the meet itself, I know I've talked to a couple people, but kind of when do you fly out to Utah? Like how many days before, and kind of what's like your acclimation plan?
Probably Thursday. I'll probably try to get there Thursday, leave Monday or Sunday. Pretty much I try to just stay with the time difference. So like if I land early in the morning, like I just try to mimic like if I'm like that's where I live. So if
Yeah.
it's during the day, even though it might be earlier or later here, I try to mimic their day, try to sleep at the same time I usually do here, but on their time. So I kind of try to adjust, and just try to eat a lot of the same foods. Just trying to make sure I'm eating good, drinking enough, sleeping good, and stuff like that. I've never done like an IV or anything. I just try to mimic what I do regularly. Like if I was doing a meet down the street, I do the same thing if I'm competing, the other side of the country.
Yeah, that's definitely important to do. I think a lot of people sometimes will either try a new pre-workout or they'll add something new into their routine
Yeah,
and thinking it's going to help them, but at the end of the day it's going to crush them because their body's so used to what they've been doing.
exactly. Yeah, like you do 16 weeks of the same thing. Like why change in the day of? You know what I mean? Like you're like if you were a good 16 weeks, why the day of change anything? Like just keep it the same, keep your warm ups relatively the same, and just treat it like another training day in a sense where you don't just kind of keep everything similar. The only thing I do, I don't eat during my workouts here, but I do eat on a meat. Like try to get honey or bread in, a lot of carbs.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your go-to like meat snack or go-to like candy is during training or meet.
Training, I don't eat. I'll have like like a carb drink with the aminos and stuff. But on a meat day, I'll have bread, honey. I like peach rings. Peach rings are fire. I like gummies. Like I'll do like lifesaver gummies. Um, I'll try to get maybe a meal in if I can. Nothing crazy, nothing too fatty, nothing that might upset my stomach. Because the last thing you want is to feel nauseous or have diarrhea during the meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So stuff like that, just stuff that's kind of like, or eat rice, like stuff like that, stuff that won't bother or upset me, just kind of fuel me for the workout, which is mostly, I do just mostly carbs.
Yeah. And for the actual warm-ups is that something that you have pretty dialed in, I'm assuming, but in terms of I guess weight jumps, you just kind of go plate by plate up to your last warm-up, or do you kind of have like these specific little jumps?
Depends. Like, oh, for squat, I usually go 2 reds, 4 reds, something mid to high sixes, something in the sevens, and then whatever my opener is, depending what it is. For bench, I'll do 1 red, 2 red, 3 red, and then I'll start doing like kilos. So I'll go like 200 keys, then like 220, and then whatever my opener is. And then for deads, I'd start off with 4 reds and then jump by the twos.
Yeah, I think for me, something that I'm glad I switched to was during the meet, and maybe even like if I'm doing a say like I'm squatting before I'm deadlifting or something like that, is not starting with the a bar or the plate, is just kind of going like right to like 315 or something instead of
Yeah,
wasting that energy and doing all those other reps. Like in a meet day, you've already squatted, you've already benched, like just do like 2 to 3 or maybe 4 warm-ups before you hit your
yeah,
opener. And I think that's
exactly.
been a huge, I mean, because one of the things for meet day is conservation of energy, especially for an equipped guy. Because I mean, I haven't done it yet, but all I've heard so far is you're gonna be absolutely dead by the time you get to deadlifts. So
I can only imagine. I got invited to the American Deadlift Championship for Strongman last year. I didn't go, but I got invited and I was gonna go. I tried a deadlift suit twice and I absolutely hated it. It was like a workout itself just to get it on, and then the amount of pressure you feel being down there. I can only imagine like a squat suit or a bencher. Like it's just so much pressure. I hated it. I couldn't do it.
yeah, and then I guess post meet, maybe for the rest of the year, or I guess for a year, like a calendar year, what are some of the next things you're working towards?
Like the rest of this year,
Yeah,
I mean, I compete so frequently. I'm supposed to be doing the showdown in November. Like that's late November, and then I have another meet in January. Then I have Clash 3 in April, and then after that, the only thing after those 3 meets I have planned is the Abs Pro next August. I'm trying to limit myself to 2 to 3 meets a year after this year, just because I'm already 4 meets in this year or 3. Yeah, plus an event because I did a meet in Canada, then I did the Animal Cage, and I did Clash. I just did the Apps Pro, and then Rumble. So I think my body, the stuff started to catch up. So I kind of want to start get an off season, make more progress because I feel like I've kind of hit a little bit of a plateau. I'm totaling the same numbers back to back.
You mentioned the animal cage. That's something that I mean I want to go to. I want to go to the Arnold at some point, but I've seen thousands of videos from it. It looks like a crazy environment. Maybe
Absolutely, it
I was gonna
is.
say if you want to kind of speak on your experience there.
I mean, it was great. I mean, I got invited a little last minute for like when they did the teams. Like it was team Brianni versus team. I forgot what was. I don't know if it was Green or Denise, whatever. But it was like teams. I got invited maybe like 6 weeks, like in December, right? So like maybe like 6 weeks beforehand. And I mean, when we got there, they treated us very good. We got a little like kit bag they gave us, and like I mean the atmosphere was great. Everybody was surrounding the cage. The cage was shaking. Everybody was yelling. It was just great. It was an amazing experience, like just being there. I hope I get invited again. It'd be nice. I squatted this year. I'd like to pull next year because I'm not really. I don't. I mean, I squatted good this year, but I'd rather pull. So, but it was great. It was a really good experience.
Yeah. So how does the cage kind of exactly work? I mean, I'm not too sure on. I guess I mean the purpose of it obviously to watch people lift heavy shit, but in terms of kind of the how it goes, like what's that like?
They had. I think it was spread out 3 or 4 days. So like each day was something. Like our day, the day I did was a team day. So like it was like I squatted. Um, I forgot who benched for our team, and then Justin Supley pulled for our team, and so did Brianni. And then they had their team that they had someone squat, someone to bench, someone to deadlift, and we kind of just went against each other, added up the totals. Whoever had the bigger total won. But I think the day prior was like max, like people just pulling max singles. I think the next day was like reps, like people just putting up crazy numbers with reps. It was just different every day. They had their own little things. So like they had a schedule like all day you could kind of go see someone doing something crazy. Because I think the day before ours they had I forgot what her name is. She like log press like 330 or something like that. It was like a huge like a world record log press for a female. You know what I mean? Or something crazy. I think it was like 350. So every day was something, but it's like the excitement every day was kind of constant because like, there was a crazy amount of people there. Everybody was yelling, clapping, screaming. You know what I mean? It was just, it felt like a meet day times 1,000 because it was just so much. It was like so concentrated.
Seems like I definitely want to make it out there. I guess another question about the Arnold was obviously it's kind of like a strength showcase, but do you feel that like between powerlifting, strongman, and like bodybuilding, like do you think it's pretty well balanced in terms of like what's available there? Do you think it's mostly bodybuilding? Like, how,
Oh, it's. I mean, they have the Arnold for bodybuilding, right? Then they have for powerlifting. They do the worlds, whatever.
XPC, right?
Yeah, yeah, they do
Yeah.
XPC worlds there, and then they also have the Arnold for strongman. I mean, you could kind of catch some of the biggest events for each sport there, because the strongman Arnold is ridiculous. You have some of the biggest names there, like you had like the pro strongman walking around there, like competing there. So it was ridiculous. And you have some of the biggest bodybuilding names there doing the Arnold. And then I met Eric Lillybridge there when I went. Like we've talked online a little bit. It was the first time I met him. Like you know what I mean. I mean, it's crazy. Every sport, like bodybuilding, powerlifting, and strongman, like you have the biggest names in the sport itself there. So it's like you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, I think we can kind of wrap things up here. So I'll ask you my final question. If you could give a new powerlifter or someone going into their first meet a word of advice, what would that be?
Treat it like a training day. Just your nerves are gonna be high. You're gonna be anxious. Don't kind of go away after your first squat. Just kind of treat it like a normal training day at the gym. Don't change much. Eat what you eat, and just have fun. That's the biggest thing. I mean, if you're not having fun, what's the point of doing it? You know?
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about not changing any variables. You want to keep all the
Yeah,
variables the same and definitely have fun.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come on. It was my pleasure.
Of course, man. My pleasure too, man.